Welcome back to part 2 of hormones in plants and animals. So here we're going to kind of start with our plant-eating caterpillar. And as you can see, the caterpillar is eating the leaves, which is causing a wounding, and a chemical from the saliva in the caterpillar are signals for the plant to produce, in this case, a chemical that attracts the parasitic wasps. And as you saw in the parasitic wasp's life cycle, that it has to lay its eggs inside the caterpillar. Now, this is a benefit for the plant, of course, and that will kill the caterpillars. And what we saw from the video was how the parasitic wasps and the virus that lives within the parasitic wasps are going to utilize the caterpillar's hormone systems. And so this is a great place for us to have a discussion about animal hormones. So let's go ahead and take a little quick view into the world of animal endocrine systems. Okay, so hormones kind of develop into 4 areas. The first area, of course, is the most important for most, reproduction. The second primary hormone action is growth and development. The third one is going to be maintenance of internal environments. And then finally, the last area of concern is the utilization of energy and the storage of sugars for the energy use. Okay, so let's kind of work our way through the definitions. Obviously, the endocrine system is the internal secretion of these molecules into the circulatory system of the animals. There's also something called an exocrine. So sometimes we can excrete these chemicals out of our bodies. And so these are in our sweat glands, our mammary glands, and they will have an effect on the organism or on an organism that is living off our cells. The hormone itself is anything that is transmitted through or transported through the bloodstream. It must then react or connect with another set of tissues, of which then that is called a target tissue, and that target tissue will then create some kind of response to that hormone. And then when we look at the cell locations, so if a hormone is produced locally on cells but does not have a target to those cells, we call that a paracrine hormone system. And the autocrine hormones are those that are released by a cell, and then they can actually have the receptors on those same cells and then cause some kind of new response. And finally, the receptors, obviously the one we've been talking about most often, are these, usually proteins bound to the cell membranes. They're very specific to the hormone, and you can have multiple receptors on same cells so that you can have lots of different communication systems going on. And so if I only had a picture for you to look at, it would be much better. So the first one is just your typical endocrine signaling. The endocrine, in this case, is this cell. It's releasing the hormones. They move through the circulatory system to the target tissues, and then there's some kind of response. Your paracrine and autocrine signaling. Here I have my endocrine cell releasing the hormones, and then they're then binding to local group of cells, but not the originator. The autocrine is the one that's binding to itself. Finally, there's something called a neurosecretory cells. So these are the neurons, and these neurons have the ability to have an effect and act like an endocrine signal. So your typical synaptic signaling, the ones that we kind of talked about early in the semester, are ones in which you have a neuron. It comes down with that action potential to the synapse. That's right here. You have the synapse, these chemicals diffusing into the receptors, and you have some kind of response. It's very fast, and this very fast system can communicate quickly. But a neurosecretory cell is one that's a neuron that releases these neurotransmitters, these endocrine cells, into the blood system, which then can travel along the circulatory system to target cells. Here at the target cells, they have some kind of response. Now, this is where you have a very fast communication system of getting the endocrines into the blood very quickly, but it could still take months, weeks, years, to actually have that response visible. So that's really the difference between the endocrine system and the neurosystem. Neurosystem is very fast and quick, whereas the endocrine system is much slower and longer lasting. So chemicals here are going to have long-lasting effects within the system. So in the animal's systems, in the animal's body, these hormones are going to be moved through the circulatory system, or something called the hemolymph, which is the liquid inside some animals without a circulatory system. And these hormones are going to be moving through the body and then reaching these target cells. But not all cells have these receptors. And so this is this process of having the ability to control long-term changes. Okay, so let's focus on one group of organisms, and that's the insects. All right, so an insect that metamorphosizes, changes into larvae into an adult, is called metamorphosis. And so this is well studied, and what we can do is kind of work our way through. So here's the brain of our caterpillar, and it releases this hormone called PTTH, which is a prothoracic hormone, which is going to release a steroid-like molecule called ectosteroids. This modified, looks like a pituitary basically, is going to release another kind of hormone called juvenile hormone. Now, high levels of juvenile hormone are maintaining the larvae as a larvae. Now, as the concentration of this steroid increases, then what happens is, in association with a high juvenile, then the insect, or in this case the larvae, grows larger, grows out of its old exoskeleton into a newer one, and then high levels of juvenile hormone cause the ectosteroid to increase, and so as it's increasing, the caterpillar or larvae will go through another set of instars, or another case of growing and molting. Finally, the juvenile hormone will stop being produced, but you'll still have high levels of the steroid that signals the cells inside the caterpillar to begin the idea of pupating. So now the cells are going to change their functions, and as they're changing functions, this is that metamorphosis into an adult, in this case a moth or a butterfly. Now, what was interesting from our video about the parasitic wasp is the fact that the wasp virus makes this high levels of juvenile hormone stay much higher than normal. So the caterpillar, as it was releasing its, remember the parasitic worms and the virus destroy the reproductive organs, so it keeps the caterpillar in the juvenile or larval state, never letting it grow into the pupa state. So no matter how much steroid is produced, the high levels of juvenile hormone are going to keep the larvae as a caterpillar. So this is one of those adaptations that this parasitic wasp has to keep the caterpillar growing and getting bigger, so that the eggs inside the caterpillar can have a known set of food to grow. So then what happens is, as the larvae escape, then what happens is the caterpillar, instead of making a cocoon or a pupae, uses its silk that it produces to, as you saw, cover and protect the parasitic wasps. And that aggression that is used to keep the parasitic wasps away are used to help protect the eggs. It's a great system, all controlled by the sets of hormones. So what I want to do next, in our next and third part, is talk about some of these hormones in mammals and how they have some similar effects. All right, well, thank you. We'll see you in part 3.